All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, powered by BetUS. That was no fun. Funny thing in the NBA, how quickly the good vibes from a 4-game winning streak could come crashing down in the span of 2.5 hours. That was a bad loss. It was a bad loss. I'm not going to say it was a terrible loss or an atrocious loss or any more extreme verbiage. You know how much I care about my word usage, because when a team hits 56% of their threes, you like, to some extent, you tip your cap, although the absolute slightest tip of the cap to Utah. And it's Utah in Utah, it's Utah, which is why it's a bad loss, because the team stinks. But it's in Utah, which is, Benji just tweeted it. It's been a house of horrors for the Knicks. Funny things happen in Utah and Denver. Those are really the two road locations where, like, you go and if you're prone to have an off night already, like, those two places will make it a really off night. And God knows this has been a place where the Knicks have had a lot more off nights than not over really the last decade. Get that stuff out of the way. There's big picture stuff to talk about here, and then there's the stuff that everybody's going to focus on after the game. And they're connected, but I want to address both before we get to the Super Chats. I would be positively shocked if there was a Super Chat comment after this game that did not mention either Karl-Anthony Towns or Tom Thibodeau by name. And to some extent, rightly so. The reasons why those two guys are going to be mentioned in pretty much every Super Chat, I'd guess. I never know what... I don't always have a good read on what people are going to talk about. Is because of the way that the Knicks lost this game. And I'm actually happy it wasn't a closer loss, because I think otherwise it would be probably even more frustrating. But this is a game, for as much as we have been singing the praises of the vision of this front office recently, to put together this ungodly offense that really can't be stopped by any team. The only way they can be stopped is if they stop themselves. Or on a night like tonight, where they're just not effective in one major component. And it happened to come against probably the worst possible team you could be ineffective in that component, which is 3-point shooting. So we've been singing the praises because, like, when the offense is looking like it's like, all right, you do enough on defense. We know they're capable of better on defense. The flip side of that coin is when the offense is not going. And I even have a tough time saying those words, because the whole reason the offense wasn't going tonight is because guys were just not only were they not hitting threes, guys just stopped taking threes. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns very clearly tonight was not comfortable from long range. I mean, he airballed a three. I think it was Popper or James Edwards III. One of those guys tweeted it out. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Like, that tells you what kind of night Karl-Anthony Towns was having from behind the arc. Jalen Brunson wanted nothing to do with his three-pointer until he was just... Actually, no. It's funny. He hit one or maybe two late, and then he had a bunch of other good looks, and he just passed them up. So he wasn't feeling it from three. Mikal Bridges, I should add his name to the list that maybe people are going to mention in some Super Chats. He was not feeling it. Josh Hart, he made a couple. Thanks for that. And OG was the one guy. And once the OG faucet turned off for a period over the course of the second half of that game, it was like, well, nobody out there is hitting from three, except for the guys off the bench. None of the starters. We'll talk about the bench very soon, I promise. We're going to talk about them. But none of the starters are hitting from three. So then you say, okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to work the ball inside, and we're going to get good looks inside, because we have guys that are capable of doing that too. Except when you're going against this Utah team that has more length, arguably, than any team in the league, with the fact when Kessler is healthy, and that's the thing that I want to know. Kessler was in there today. My Lord, you see the difference that he makes against some teams. Maybe not against all teams, against some teams, and against a team that could not hit a three tonight. He made all the difference in the world, because when the Knicks tried to go inside, whether it was Jalen Brunson or Towns or OG Anunoby, or it didn't matter who it was, Mikal Bridges, like, at some point it seemed like they got the yips, because whether or not Kessler was there or one of those guys with all the, that had length was there, it's just like, it's like they felt the presence, the ethereal presence, and nobody could do anything inside the arc at anywhere near a commensurate rate. which is why the Knicks offense today scored whatever the hell they scored. I mean, whatever the 106 points. I mean, it was I would say the worst offensive showing in terms of execution, in terms of just shot making that I've seen. I thought, like, again, the game plan was fine. You missed your threes, and then you resort to plan B, and plan B wasn't working so well. So that's why, like, I can't kill them too much for scoring 106 points because they shot, and the number rose up late because they hit a couple of meaningless ones later, but they were shooting under 30% from three all game. Thank God for Campaign coming in and hitting some threes. But in a game like that, when the threes are not working, and you're gonna need to scrap and claw and probably try to find some other ways for offense, you do have another way to try to win the ball game, and that is to attempt to win it on defense. And in a game that the Knicks lost by 15, they had one guy who was somehow a plus 19, and it was Jericho Sims. Now, did Jericho Sims play to a plus 19 in 9 minutes? Was that all him? Of course that wasn't all him. But that number is representative of the defensive energy differential between Sims and Towns in this game. And if you want to boil the game down to one thing, it was that. Because when Sims was in the game, it not only was his defensive energy higher, but because his defensive energy was higher, it allowed all of the other Knicks that were on the floor with him, including Campaign, who's probably going to get my 3-star player of the game when I write about this, which I'm not doing tonight. Sorry, anybody who's expecting a newsletter tomorrow. You can wait until Monday for this poop fecta. It allowed Payne and OG and McCall when he was on the floor and Hart to be more active and be more aggressive when Sims was out there. When Towns was out there defensively, I mean, there was a possession. I mean, there were a lot of possessions like this, but I noticed one. They made their run. Oh, no, sorry. The Jazz made a run. Oh, that's right. The Knicks made their big run, 17-0, missed a chance to tie. The Jazz made a 7-0 run, a JB 3, I think his first 3 of the game, ended that run. And then you had Cat come back in the game, and I think it might have been the first possession. Maybe it was the second defensive possession. One of the first couple defensive possessions, Cat was in the game. Cat hedges, which is what a lot of people have been begging, yelling, screaming for Cat to do more of all year. And he hedges, and he's up there at the point of attack, and his presence there accomplishes nothing. He doesn't clog up the passing lane. He's not putting pressure on the ball handler, and he sure as shit isn't getting back to the roller, who I forget who the hell it was, but whoever it was rolled down the lane, got the ball, and I honestly don't even remember whether it led to an easy 2 or a kick out 3. It was one or the other. It honestly, at that point, it doesn't matter. And that is not an acceptable level of defense from Karl-Anthony Towns. And I'm not going to sit here and kill Towns fully, because for me to sit here and be like, well, his effort wasn't there today. The guy got 16 rebounds, 8 on the offensive glass, and I just watched the game. His effort was there. And honestly, I think for him, when he defends like that, it's less about effort, and it's more just like he's not the most gifted defender. And there are times when he's better, and there are times when he's worse. And you hope for the times that he's better and he's a little bit more active with the high hands and the quick feet and all that stuff. And we weren't getting that today. Not saying he's went out there and dogged it. He didn't. He didn't. Just watch him under the glass on either end of the floor. You don't go out and get 8 offensive rebounds but dogging it. So I'm not. I can't sit here and in good conscience kill Cat. But he was bad defensively, and if you weren't winning the game on with your offense, with your 3-point shooting, and he wasn't able to do much else on the floor for individually, at least offensively, because when he drove the ball, that didn't go well either, because it just was an off night for him. And again, Utah's length. And I can't even, by extension, say, well, just his presence out there meant something. I think Utah's length even kind of neutered how much him just being out there impacted the Knicks' ability to generate meaningful offense, meaningful good offense in other areas. So if you weren't winning the game that way, I think it was incumbent upon them to try to win the game on the other side of the floor. And Jericho Sims gave you a chance to do that, and he played 9 minutes. And that falls on the head coach. And you know me. You know me. I will blame the fucking janitor before I blame Tom Thibodeau. I'll blame the person that cleans the jerseys. Well, you didn't clean the jerseys good enough. That's on you, man. That's certainly not on the head coach. That's me. That's the guy telling you this. And yet Jericho Sims playing 9 minutes. And I get it. I get it because I get the man. I've watched him. I mean, I've paid attention to him his whole career, and I've certainly watched him intently while he's been the coach of this team. And he believes in consistency. He believes if you repeat something enough and you put forth the requisite amount of effort, eventually the results will come around. And you know what? Eventually the results, I believe, will come around. And like maybe, if Cat hits a couple threes in the fourth quarter of this game, or one or two things goes differently, and maybe the Knicks get that much closer, maybe his presence offensively is enough. And it's sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes it's a couple plays. But tonight, those couple of plays didn't happen. And because they didn't, Tibbs has to own it. He has to. There's no alternative to the result of this game. Now, do I think if Jericho Sims goes out there and plays 25 minutes, the Knicks win this game? With the way the Jazz were shooting, probably not. Like, it probably would have been a closer loss, which would have been all the more frustrating. So I which is why I always have a tough time saying, oh, the coach lost this game. Like, the players lose the game. And in the first half especially, I want to make sure I get this out there. In the first half especially, no one on the Knicks was taking it to the Jazz on defense. No one. Not Brunson, not Hart, not Bridges, not the starters. Let me rephrase that. The starters. OG was a little bit, and even OG, I think, probably wasn't at his best because he picked up a couple fouls he doesn't usually pick up, but at least he was bringing it. But even OG, I can't even say OG was at his best. But they were not taking it to the Jazz, which I think it was Steve Jones that sent a message out. I keep skeeted it out. I guess I'm just gonna have to say that word for the rest of the year. That like you don't feel the Knicks defenders enough. Like they don't get into you. They don't put pressure on you. And when the starting lineup is out there, that's the MO. It is. They when the starting five is out there on the floor, they very much are a five-man unit that plays not to lose. And with the way offenses are structured in the NBA today, it's just not going to be good enough more often than not. It's going to be good enough when your offense is putting up 140 points, but on nights your offense is not putting up that amount of points, it's not going to be good enough. So, again, it's another reason I don't want to put this all on Towns. But it's just like you saw the way that game was going and you saw the path. Now, I want to at least, and again, this is not going to shock anybody, that I'm going to try to find some reasoning behind what Thibodeau did what he did. Before Cat came in, after they got it to 2 points, they gave up a 7-0 run, and that was because I think you saw the offense start to struggle. So I think Tibbs was essentially trying to have his cake and eat it too, saying, all right, our backup units are going to get us close defensively, and then when they run out, or defensively, when they run out of gas offensively, let me try to put Towns back. I thought there was a point in the fourth quarter where you probably could have made another sub. Now, how would that have sat with Towns, who has been arguably one of the 10 best players in the league this season? How does that go over in the locker room? That's the one thing. It's the one thing that I would caution anybody who's like, this is totally on the coach. It's an 82-game season, and this is a coach and a player that have certainly had trust issues in the past. And I wonder if, because Karl has Karl had some poor games or some not great games. Let's say that. Has Karl had some less than great games, some average games? so far in the season. Sure, he's had some average games, but by and large, he has been, without question, their best offensive player. And again, I think he's been one of the 10 best players in the league if we're keeping it a buck. So you're 15 games into the season. He's been a top 10 player, and he has his first real off game, and the coach is going to bench him for the last, midway through the fourth quarter in which it's a close game. How does that go over? What does that do in terms of the trust level between Tom Thibodeau and Karl-Anthony Towns, which I believe is going to have to be something that, is monitored. So that is my, I don't know what you want to call it, a glass half full, silver lining, whatever. It's my shitty excuse for what we witnessed. It's the only real excuse I have for him. Do I think it's meaningless? No, I don't think it's meaningless. But I wonder if there wasn't a better way to thread that needle, including potentially, I don't know that I would have gone to this for the first time all season in the fourth quarter of this game, but maybe moving Cat to the 4 and trying Sims at the 5. I don't think I would have done that. Maybe some people would have said, yeah, try that, but I don't know. So that was the game, Knicks didn't hit threes. Jazz did. Jazz didn't feel Knicks defenders enough. And the Knicks certainly felt the Jazz defenders an awful lot. Inside the arc, at least. And that's your ball game. You hope that it's one that doesn't wind up mattering too much in the grand scheme of things. Go get one of these next 2 games in Denver or Dallas, and it's like, all right, and figure out a way to get 2 of your next 3. How about that? Figure out a way to get 2 of your next 3. Go have a winning road trip, and it's like, forget it. It doesn't matter which games you lost, which games you won. You go on a West Coast road trip, and you go 3-2. You're fine with it, or you live with it. But it's really all I got. I think it is as simple as that. You want to talk about Mikal Bridges? First, really, it seemed like he was starting around into form. As I see James Edwards III tweet out, he almost went back to Jericho Sims in the end, and he said he really liked his minutes. Well, it's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears for Knicks fans. I can tell Tom that right now. They're not going to almost only counts in horseshoes. Certainly doesn't count in NBA rotation decisions. Bridges, really rough game. 1 of 7 from deep. There were a few above the break threes that he attempted that were just, they weren't great. And we're now 16 games into the season. Thought maybe the last game in Phoenix, maybe being back in Phoenix did something. Thought maybe it spurred a change with the above the break shooting. Didn't turn out to be the case. It's really it. I don't have anything else. Let me give out my autograph signature moment of the game. Always tough to give out an autograph signature moment of the game in a game that has this feel, this very icky feel to it. But I'm going to do my best right after I remind everybody that they should go over and download the Autograph app to get rewarded for your fandom. Do all the things you normally do, listen to podcasts, read blogs or my newsletter or anything you read. It's all on there on the Autograph app. And anytime you engage with any piece of Knicks content, you will get rewards. Add up those rewards and you get all kinds of prizes, plus get exclusive content from content creators like me. You could download the app anywhere you get your apps. Use code KFS if you do that. I'm going to give it to probably the most excited I was for this game, which was the game with a possession. It was where the run got up to 12-0. And the Jazz had about 18 different looks at their own basket. And the activity of the Knicks, just hands in there, high hands, everything. Jazz missing. And then it came back the other end, and somebody attempted a shot. I forget who attempted it. It missed, and there was Jericho Sims there for the putback dunk. And was electrifying, absolutely electrifying. And let me tell you, that 17-0 run, which felt like it happened in about 4.5 minutes, it was electrifying. It was awesome. Yeah, here's Tibbs after the loss, which, again, I essentially said the same thing. We were flat. Every time we got it down to like 5, we gave up an easy shot. There's going to be nights you don't shoot it great, and you need your defense and your rebounding. I mean, yes. So, but the question's going to be, did you play the players that give you the best chance to get that defense where it needs to be?